condone slavery and, so forth and so forth. I want to be able to adequately speak to that. So I'm just seeking a, consensus of my fellow brothers and sisters. I really should have put that on the prompt, but it is what it is. So what do you think about her take on that? Do you think that slavery here in America could have been a form of mercy? Yeah, and then how do you feel if you are you a Black American?
A
I'm a,
black American man, Cincinnati, Ohio, Midwest. Yeah, I wouldn't say that slavery is a mercy. I think that would be an absurd thing to say. Um, that the brutality that went on was a mercy. I do think it was a punishment, though, Miss Royal. I think it was definitely a punishment, and I think it was a justified punishment because we practiced some very evil things over there, and they do that to this day.
right, that's what she's saying in the video. I'm sorry. I just wanted to interject. So what she's saying is that she's absolutely on the same lines with you. She's saying that it's a punishment, but it was a merciful form of punishment. You know what I mean? Like because it
Well,
could have been worse. But go ahead.
I don't think it was merciful, but I do think it was appropriate. I don't think it was merciful, but I do think it was appropriate. It wasn't a mercy at all. As a matter of fact, the things that we did over there didn't deserve mercy. Um, but what will determine, Miss Royal, if it was merciful is what we do now, what we do today. We some of the richest black people in the world, right? Who's around the world. We some of the most. We are standing at the door of opportunity. What will determine, Miss Royal? If another point, real quick, Miss Royal,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna put it like this: we some of the only blacks in the world that really realize what blackness is. We realize it more than they realize it in Africa. We realize it more than they realize it in Africa, Miss Royal.
Mm,
So it's different to be black over here than what's common. So we have a specialness to us. We have a uniqueness to us. And we are very, 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 very aware of our blackness. Whereas if you in Africa, and I have some friends who went to Africa, black ain't nothing.
mm,
It's about your ethnicity. You have a uniqueness to us. And we are very, 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 very aware of our blackness. Whereas if you in Africa, and I have some friends who went to Africa, black ain't nothing.
mm.
It's about your ethnicity. Are you Nigerian? Are you Yoruba? You know what I'm saying? Are you, you know, all these other ethnicities?
Mhm.
Black
Yeah.
don't mean nothing over there.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
So we very aware of our blackness over here.
Good afternoon. Hello, host. Thanks for having me up.
Hi, you're welcome. Mhm.
Black
Yeah.
don't mean nothing over there.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
So we
So, when faced with conflict, usually you have three options. When you, let's say, me and you are at war, kinetic conflict, and I take one of your provinces, and the five teenage men are there. I have three options. I can wipe out all the five teenage men, I can release them and send them to reinforce your forces, or I can put them to work for my forces to enable them to come to enable a speedy end to the war. Them to come to enable a speedy end to the war. And as such, I'm occurred.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
and that's the biblical context as well.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Because like that, because like if, think about it. If me and you are at war, most humans exist in a perpetual state of war, whether it's kinetic or soft power. We are always vying for resources, space tied to ideology. We're always conflict over something. And once that conflict involves other persons involved, we have to decide what to do with them. The merciful thing would be to either take them under your wing and help them to use their human resources to push forward so you can have a speedy end to the war. You can always wipe them out, or you can send them, which is the dumbest decision, to release them and to reinforce your enemies, which would make you lose more forces.
No, so okay, so let me say that. So I don't believe that the YT people were being merciful. I think that because I believe God is in control of everything, of all, of, the earth is His, the fullness thereof. He in control. I think that that God made it so that they would, that their objective for us would be for the free labor, in order that, and consequently, that mercy would be shown to us. But I don't think that the YT people are like, oh, I'm gonna be merciful,
Well,
you know.
also you're talking about it in the aspect of the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, in
because
the aspect of the transatlantic slave trade, it was a build a road race. It was just economics. You needed, sorry, TikTok is full up. The
mm,
YT people needed economic labor to carry out their economics. You needed that. It was an economic question. So the white people, why sorry YT, sorry, TikTok is full up. The
mm,
YT people needed economic labor to carry out their new development in the world, because the best labor you have, the best resource on earth is human resource, and they also needed a people that could adapt to it as quick as possible. So having that problem and solving for that problem, they went over to the western parts of Africa, got the persons that were already POWs, so that's prisoners of war, engaged with traded them for the prisoners of war, which we got, and then we were sold over here. So it's
mm,
just an economic aspect. It was not a matter of personal bias or anything. It was an economic problem, and they solved the economic problem.
right.
So it wasn't really it would have been considered a mercy in that instance, but it doesn't really matter because we were the persons. Most of the persons sent over here were already slaves.
Okay, okay, okay.
Mhm.
So are you Jamaican? I think that's a Jamaican.
Yeah, I'm Jamaican.
Okay, so I'm starting to learn the difference between like Jamaican and African. I can pick up that Jamaican. I have a Jamaican cousin.
Mhm.
His mother's Jamaican, and she married my uncle, who is American. So yeah, I'm learning that I can I can detect it. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
so
that was
it's
very.
also, so when most Black Americans talk about slavery and racism, and they hark back to the slave trade, they don't even understand what the slave trade was. It wasn't a matter of racism. Most slavery and most of those kinetic conflicts are not a matter of bias against a people group. It's a matter of economic problem. It's an economic problem. People are usually solving for economic problems. Humans are always competing over resources, land, and different ideologies. The transatlantic trade was an economic problem. Where in the tropics, you needed a workforce that could adapt to the air of the
Interesting,
tropics.
very interesting insight that you gave. Very interesting, and I can't agree with a lot of what you said. Interesting, for being open minded to consider like what she was saying, because I'm not gonna lie. The people I've said this before early on in my life when I came across her video, I was like, she's crazy. She's off her rocker. What the hell is she talking about?
Mhm.
Like I
Well,
really
I have watched the video. You'd have to give me context behind the video. Somebody just said that is tether bubble, sir, and that's not what it was not about race. So I would like to, could they defend that point? Because first of all, the word tether, I'm not a tether. That's very weird, but okay.
Yeah. Well, hey, yeah, too much. If you want to come up, you're more than
Yeah,
welcome to.
if you
So
can defend
Richie,
your stance.
yeah, if you, and we're gonna go in the meantime until most of the times they're not brave enough to, but too much pre can prove me wrong. Yeah, brave enough to, but too much pre can prove me wrong. If you want to, come step in the paint, get on up, and then we're gonna come back to you so you can stand
Okay.
on big business.
Okay.
Issue, welcome in, sis, welcome in. So, what girl? You know, I talked to you last weekend, and I was telling you I was having like a pretty much a breakdown. Like my foundation was shaking. I had called her. Her issues of the heart. The one who's getting ready to speak. Her and I we talk outside of here, and I had a pretty much a crisis last weekend. I was like, oh my goodness, the Bible and slavery. Like I had saw some scriptures and I was just like shaking, like, oh no, like it just kind of made me, just have some questions. Like I can't, because I never saw it was a particular scripture. I won't repeat the scripture, but I hadn't realized it was in the Bible, and it was kind of talking about like forced slavery, and I was like, I don't know how to reconcile this, and so yeah, issues. So I came across this girl's video because I'm still searching. And I should have tagged you on it. But what do you think? What do you think about this? This thought, this idea.
Hey, yeah, so I don't know about like grace, like God's, mercy. I have to digest that and kind of like really review that. But I just thought it was interesting. I wanted to share something that I was on the panel before and we was all talking, and I forgot what we was talking about. But eventually, it led to a lot of African Americans feeling a disdain for like Pan Africanism in general. Pan Africanism in general, which I didn't really realize. Is this too loud? This Pocoyo in the background? Can you hear it?
I can hear it, but we can still hear you though.
Okay, because I can move to another room, but yeah. So what Pan Africanism is, correct?
Yeah, like what Umar Johnson practices.
Yeah. So Africa, but they don't feel like when they come into our communities, we get the same kind of we get the same
Right,
kind of sentiments, and
right.
they were just saying like, oh no, like it's a wrap, like we're not helping, like it's a wrap on them, right? And I brought up the story in the Bible about Joseph, right? So we can say like, yeah, prisoners of war and all of that, but to make it just a little bit more everyday, right? They sold us, regardless if they knew it was gonna happen. We got sold like a piece of like cargo, which I'm not saying it was unusual, but even as he was talking about the prisoners of war thing, uh, you have to know that they took several voyages over the years. It wasn't like they only had one. Like the slave trade was like, oh, it was a one time thing. They were doing it for a while, right? And it did become it did become racist, right? It did become racist, and we know that they developed a caste system to perpetuate the racism for economic gain, right? But outside of that, you think about the story of Joseph, right? His brother sold him into the S word. And then from that, he was in prison. He went through a whole bunch of stuff, girl. I was like, You know what I'm saying? He was just like
Mhm.
doing good and everything. Girl, I was like, I would have been complaining. But look, he was just
Yeah.
handling it like a G. But guess
Mhm.
what? At the end, he was shown favor, and then he was in the position where his brothers was coming to him, although they didn't know it was him, and saying, "Hey, help us out." And I said, "Well, think about that." So, with that story being said, do y'all think we should still have that sentiment where we don't feel like we should help? So I can understand where you're coming from, like in the end. What else, girl? So I can understand what you said, like in the end, like it does look like, you know what I'm saying? Because to be truthful, like think about it. They can come over to America and just, find jobs. Like they like move back to Africa. It's not like we can go over there, find jobs, and like just pick up and just, have a better opportunity. That's not the case. So I mean, and we are in a better position, as of now and as it has it seen. So I understand where you're coming from, but I just thought that parallel from the story of Joseph was just interesting.
And I'm so glad you brought up Joseph because I feel like indirectly that Joseph could also be a piece of evidence. Well, evidence is not the word I'm looking for. Maybe an example of what she's saying in her video about mercy, because even Joseph said when his brothers had to come down when in that famine, when they had to come down to Joseph to get help from the very place they sold him to, the very nation they sold him to. When Joseph pretty much got his elevation and his come up, Joseph said to his brothers, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for my good." Oh my goodness! Like I think that that's an example of what she's trying to reference. That it could have been a form of mercy. That
And I get
because
that.
like
I
look at
get that.
how it's because it's operating the same way. They're now coming here, they're migrating here to America, just like Joseph's brothers had to migrate to that nation where they sold Joseph to. And it was Joseph, the very one. And it's our fights, our civil rights fights that have helped them, that have enabled them rather, to be able to come here and to escape poverty. Not only escape the poverty, but to make money here to send back home to help those, those their loved ones who are still back home in the struggle. So it's like yeah, girl, I think that she on to something. I think she on to something. I'm still okay. What I'm gonna say is that I'm 75% sold. I'm 75%. Well, no pun intended. That ain't sound right.
Can I
I'm
answer?
Lord
Wait,
have mercy. And it continues.
can
But
right.
you
I
know what?
answer
I
you?
think because of the history of the S word was so brutal.
All right.
Can I?
It was so unimaginably horrific. It's hard for us to correlate that to any sort of mercy, right? At once we learn about, because I mean, even when we was kids, like I thought I knew the brunt of it. And when I was a kid, I used to be mad. Like when I was a kid, I would be in class, like, man, if I could go back and tell them with an AK and unlimited ammo cheat code, I'll tell them all up. I'll free all the slaves. That's
I know that's right.
and as I got older, I found out it was even worse than I could even imagine, to the point where I'm just thinking, are these people even human? Like, this is crazy. So I feel like it's so hard for us to connect that to any sort of grace. And that's the reason why we have that reluctancy, you know what I'm saying, in our mind. At least for me. That's the reason why the mercy part was like that. But I do see, like, when we parallel that to Joseph, like, even when I see people talk about us, like I don't know if you've seen the South African like posts because they mad about these Zulu parades I ain't never knew about. Um, yeah, they talk about cotton pickers and all this, and I'm just like, yo, as I just review like the different countries and the different states they in, I'm like, bro, I would not. And even as I think about our culture and like what we've accomplished, I don't think I wouldn't trade it. Like I love that we are us. Like yes, maybe we might not know all the stuff that they keep talking about, but I would prefer our culture over theirs. And that's not to say anything is wrong with their culture, but just me personally, everything that we are, everything we stand for, everything we've been through, everything we've built, it's like yeah, it's definitely given. Like I feel like we're number one, we can't be number two. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
think that's the only problem as we think about the it being mercy is how terrible it was reported to have been.
A very good point. Very good point. Yes, I am. Um, Welcome in. What do you?
Okay.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts about this idea that so two things. What are your thoughts about this idea that it could have been a mercy? Okay, so how about this? If you're not a Christian, you
I am a
don't.
Christian.
Oh, okay, okay. So I definitely would like for you to answer both of the questions. So yeah, so the first part about, what your thoughts are about it perhaps maybe being a mercy from God. And then the second part, would you rather have our ancestors not gone through slavery and we just still be in Africa and being subjected to some of the, the horrible, inhumane things that they are currently, even to this day? Like I said, I believe that slavery, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that slavery is still practice in certain countries in Africa. Don't quote
Yeah,
me on that.
definitely.
And I do think that also the female genital mutilation that I've been ranting on about, and I'm going to keep, because that to me that's the worst. That's enough for me. If I didn't name nothing else,
Yeah.
because as a woman,
And
I just
unmedicated
couldn't.
too.
Unmedicated, yes, because somebody really tried to get up here and compare it and say, oh, well, you guys circumcise boys in America. Oh my God, that's a
They're
surgical,
babies. They don't even know.
that's a
They're
surgical.
babies. They don't even know.
But here's the thing, and it's done under anesthesia. Under
Yeah.
anesthesia, it's a surgical procedure done under anesthesia. Like I was like
Yeah. But
up here and compare it and say, oh, well, you guys circumcise boys.
slavery was God's mercy.
want to do. It's a matter of internal perception. Knowledge is there. Yeah,
Be respectful to new panelists who haven't gotten the opportunity to talk. So I'm just wanted to say this really briefly to Whitley. Whitley, if you have not already considered, sister, you need to run for an office. I decree and declare that's what you need to do in the near future. I don't know how old you are. You don't have to tell me. But whenever you get to the age, whenever you can run for office, sis, we need you. We need you in this governmental system because you have a voice. You have an awesome voice. And I just, you need to be in a position of power to be able to, make some changes. And I just wanted to say that you have blessed my soul, sis.
That's scary, but I will accept it and I receive that and I'll keep praying about it because I believe like once we just as women especially try to change the way that we look at things and ourselves, that's when we'll see the shift in the community. But I don't even want a platform. I just want to be able to give people the things that they need so that they can reflect on themselves. I don't want to tell you what to do, but I do want to give you the right questions or the right tools to make you question the way that we showing up, the way that we see blackness. But that's scary, but I receive it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was looking for the little finger claps the kids be doing nowadays, the emoji. I can't find it, sis. But I was trying to find it for you, okay?
Girl, I need them sound effects that people be doing. Girl, I need to find. I'm gonna ask. You know who I'm gonna ask? I'm gonna ask Eyes. Eyes, I know she know how to. Girl, she's my source. Eyes be on it. She be knowing how to operate these live functions and everything. So okay, so thoughts. Go ahead, thoughts. So it's gonna be thoughts, IQC, and then Child. Welcome back, Child. Go ahead, thoughts.
All I wanted to say is we got major communication problems, and I'm just saying that because I have those type of problems with my girl. It's like we both be on, women and men both be on different pages, and we just can't hear each other just because we get stuck in definitions and stuff. Just like y'all was saying, we're not emotional enough. Of course, we're not built the same as you. We have different ways of dealing with emotions. And when I say emotions, I mean energy in motion. It's focused energy in motion. And the way the system has been built, we always just beefing over nothing and we can't really hear each other. Just like women will tell men what they thinking and men will tell women what they thinking instead of stopping and asking, really wanting to know what's going on. Like if I said something like emotions, instead of you telling me what I meant and what you got from it, ask me, because when I was listening to the what you were saying, White, I can't see the last name, it was full of emotions. I understand, yes, it's good sometimes to have emotions. It's good sometimes and it's not good sometimes. It depends on the conversation and the solution, if we're trying to even get to a solution. Because it's different types of conversations. And we're just talking to talk, or we just talking to get somewhere, those are different types of conversations. So when a woman says that men aren't emotional, we are. We're just different. Just like y'all different from us. And sometimes we can't understand y'all. And y'all can't understand us. But majority of the time, men be quiet. Well, I ain't gonna say all men, because some men are emotional like women. Women's emotions and men's emotions are different. If we can't get to a common ground to know that, we'll never get anywhere. We'll never be the same emotionally, because males and females deal with different things differently, and we have different concepts of stuff. We're built different, and that's what was meant by the Most High, for us to accent each other. But the best way to accent each other is to basically know how to listen to each other. The people who came in the mix, they didn't split us up to the point that, just like the host was saying, that you need to be in politics. And it's like, yes, for the women, like it's only to the men, or at least to me. I ain't gonna speak for all men, because I don't like that, because we're not all the same. To me, it was like, yes, do that for the women. The men ain't even in the mix. And I get that a lot when it comes to certain situations. It's like it's only about the women or it's only about the men, and it never gets to a point of when can we come back together and talk to each other and big up each other. Just like you big up her, you big up us too. You know what I'm saying? But it's different. It's a different way that women big up women, and it's a different way that men big up men. I understand that. There's no change in that. There's no need to change that, but it just needs to be recognized. That's the main thing that never gets across in my personal relationships. It's like women can't recognize when men are trying to do something for the whole, and that we're just seeing it from a different perspective. And sometimes we question each other. Well, from my perspective, I question women sometimes just to know where they're at so they can know what they're saying. Because sometimes I get in a conversation, I get to talking, and like I said earlier, I'm not a teacher. So sometimes I might say something and it's not coming across the way that I really mean it. So when someone catches it, I know that's on me. I'm working on myself to know how to speak in order to relay the message so no one takes it left. Because I don't like conversations going left, because there's no progress in going left unless we're gonna go through it and then we get an understanding on why it went left so it don't go left again. Because if we keep on doing the same thing, expecting different results, and we're not recognizing that it's insanity, we're still gonna be talking about this 10 years from now, or our children, offspring, gonna be talking about the same thing, because we're not getting anywhere with each other. We're not conversating to really understand each other. Because unbeknownst to us, all these psychological things that the quote unquote oppressor has done to us, it still got a hold on us. And I think that whole quote of victim is a trigger word. So myself, I am going to try my best to delete that word out of my vocabulary, because I cannot change how someone else would take it. But I need to find another word that means something similar to what I'm trying to relay, because that word has a negative connotation, so it's always taken left. I recognize that right now from this conversation. I didn't recognize it previously. So I'm going to work on myself in that aspect. And the whole point of everything is everyone's looking outside of themselves, and they're never looking at themselves and trying to change how they do things. That's that whole concept of your mind and your perspective. If you're always looking outside, there's always going to be a problem. There's never not going to be a problem until you start handling your own stuff. Of course, we have to start with ourselves. You can't look at the macrocosm without straightening the microcosm. I can't be in my own house and worrying about my neighbor, and my house is tore up, dirty. I gotta clean my house first, and then I can talk to my neighbor about it. That's the same scenario. But regardless, I apologize if anybody took the word left. I did not mean that towards y'all women. I love y'all, period. Off the top, I love y'all. I love y'all melanated women, and I don't want y'all to feel no type of way when we conversate. Because when we conversating about anything, we should be always building. Any means necessary. If the next person got to humble themselves, I'm cool with humbling. I always have to humble myself, but I'm all right with it. I don't care, because I know me. And I'm going to just put it right back in y'all. I love y'all, and I apologize if anything came off left. I will try my best to do better for the whole.
Thank you, Thoughts. Thank you so much. That was very heartfelt. I receive it. I receive it. And I can appreciate you for your willingness to empathize with people who are triggered. Because I am triggered by that word, victimization, when it's used in terms of like the race, wars and stuff like that. I appreciate that, Thoughts. When I tell you from the bottom of my soul, I appreciate your empathy, because not many people in general are willing to be empathetic and kind of put themselves in another person's shoes and say, hey, I would want somebody to kind of think about how that makes me feel, and just your willingness to adjust yourself in a way that would edify the next person. That's golden. That's golden, and that's what we need more of. We need more of this, guys. I love it. I love it. I love it. IQC, thank you for your patience. Child, we coming to you, child. We coming to you, child. We are coming. Go ahead, IQC.
It's kind of very difficult to address all the points because persons monologue a lot, so I try to write down what people say. But I like to gain clarification and rather a free flow conversation, because like what somebody said, I said something about psychology degree. I never said that I don't have a psychology degree. I wanted to ask for clarification of what you're fighting for, and then the conversation really divulged into a race conversation. I don't look at things through a race lens. I look at things through what actually is. I understand the aspects of emotions, but there's a reason why the most successful people on earth, there's a time and place for emotions, and what there are predominantly logic always outcomes emotion. In every war, if you're in the book Art of War, there's a time and place for it, but usually emotions are usually a cloud to judgment. Even the Bible states that listen with a steady heart. But I rather have a back and forth discussions because it's kind of hard to address everything. But I have one thing that wrote right here. The thing about I don't really like the race discussion because it's just based off perspective. There's no real objective markers. But the thing about the race discussion, in any culture, you're going to have a dominant race, and the dominant race is going to try to protect its status as a dominant race. Whether it's Africa, whether it's Jamaica, Jamaica has the same thing with the Chinese, and the Chinese are the same thing with the Muslims. Like they're gonna try to protect its culture, its traditions, and also try to secure itself. So, and we do that all the time when we're put in that same situation. It's not a matter of a race thing. This is a matter of the human condition. So I don't look at it like that. So I rather just a back and forth conversations or asking questions because it's very hard to address all the things when people jump all over the place when you're monologuing. So
Well, see, the thing with that, the reason why I had kind of like, it seemed like with the back open panel don't seem to never work on my panels because it'd be like everybody be trying to talk and be trying to cut people off, and then some people don't be feeling heard. I
yeah, but I
mean,
don't do that. That's why I try because I'm a professional debater. That's why I like open back and forth. I'm not. You realize I just wait. Like I rather a open
Yeah,
and
we
forth
can
discussion
tell.
because you gain more clarity that way.
well, I
So
thought
because it's
that
very hard. Yeah.
I thought professional debates. I thought they give turns. At least when I
Yeah,
see
but no.
presidential
When they
debates.
give terms, there are different types. Like you give terms when you can directly address the thing, but you would have to with the person when you're directing that criticism at the person goes immediately after, so you can gain clarification so that you don't lose the points and stuff. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
I see
that's
what
all.
you're saying.
So it's a
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
don't
different
think this
forms.
isn't more like a debate. I think this is more just like a conversation that has, debate sprinkled in it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe
Even
that's why.
conversation, it's hard to keep up when you're going all over the place. That's what I'm saying. Because even when I'm
I
writing,
mean,
yeah,
it's a
Multiple
you
learned
people.
realize.
It's
talent,
multiple people on the panel.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
and it's a learned
That's
But
what I'm just
talent.
saying.
It's a skill of
I'm not saying.
hold on,
multitasking.
child. We coming to you, baby. Hold
I'm
on
not
now.
no.
yeah.
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying it's an issue. I'm not saying it's very difficult to address everything. That's all. I wrote down everything, but it's very difficult to address it because person probably be lost in the points and then it strays off to somewhere else. That's all I'm saying. So I rather when you ask questions, somebody provides clarification of what they think and they explore their worldview and then they do the same. That's all.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, if that's what you wanted to say, we're gonna go to child, and then after child, it'll just be open, and yeah, because there's not many of us. So yeah, after child, it'll just be open. But y'all can just cut each other off or whatever. I don't, go ahead, child. Thank you for your patience, child.
No, the funny part is I really didn't have nothing to say. I was just
Oh, oh,
I was
oh
just listening
man.
because I came in late and I was just like listening and it was interesting. But is there like a specific question we're answering or
I have a
Oh,
specific question. Like I had one. Can I put it
yeah,
forward?
yes.
The thing about all of this is that I don't really like the race debate because I look at people as people. And the thing about if we're gonna even look at the race context and stuff, people are not gonna care, especially dominant race, are not gonna care about your struggles and stuff. And if you ask, and if the mindset is to get better or to achieve something, that mindset is gonna cause you to lose every single aspect. It is going to cause you to lose because it won't allow you to look at the dominant picture. Because remember what I said the first time I come in here, most human condition is always a battle between race, not race, sorry, resources, access, and also human capital. So it's the ones with the better mindset and the better plans that win. So if the goal is actually achieve success or actually achieve something beyond that, that mindset is not the way to get there. And we have numerous examples of that throughout history.
Well, I would
uh,
like to say, I would love to see the
wait, I
future
can
to
just
look
go.
different than the
Go ahead.
past. I don't think that just because things have always been a way means that it's right, and we should always keep it that way. I think a shift in mindset is appropriate, and we do see that this dominant race system is toxic to the world, right? So I would like to say that, but
I wanted to double back on another thing I wanted to say. I think when we talk about emotions, there's nothing wrong with emotions. So when we're talking about a topic and somebody you say, "Oh, you're getting emotional," that's a signal. That's all emotions are. We all experience the same type of emotions. Emotions, the way you might process those emotions may vary between gender or specifically that person. It might be a cultural aspect, whatever. But the way we process those emotions is different. It's a signal. So if you get passionate about something, you say, "Oh no, that's bothering me." Oh, that's because it's something important to you. That's like giving you direction. Okay. Other than that, you just be like a bot. Okay. So that's our internal GPS system. That's what emotions are. We all experience the same emotions. There's nothing wrong with emotions. It does not cloud your judgment. And in fact, it brings clarity to your unique human experience.
Sorry, is that addressed to me? I'm
Can
just want
I
to
can I
know.
take my turn?
I'm not addressing
Okay,
you.
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm addressing the topic, not you.
Yeah, go ahead, child.
I was just gonna say, I mean, coming into a room that's talking about slavery and saying not to add race or emotion is crazy. Like, isn't that the whole topic? I mean, it looks like it. It looks like inevitably the conversation of race and emotion, I mean, will come up because you're talking about things that would provoke emotion, and you're talking about things that have historically affected Black people. So I'm not even sure why we're saying not to talk about race or emotion, in regards to this specific topic. I think there's other topics though where it would not be useful to talk about race, but this one in particular is actually pretty relevant because the structures of racism, if it's not having to deal directly with just finances, it always included like segregating a group of people based off of identity because of superiority. So it inevitably would include race. And then when it comes to emotion, I feel like not all emotion is bad. That there, for example, if we talk about the Bible, there's forms of anger that's either ungodly or forms of anger that is righteous. That's why the Bible says, "Do not sin in your anger," because there's a possibility that you could be angry without sinning. And so there's multiple acts of righteous indignation that stirred the prophets up in their righteousness and their alignment with God to say or do something that brought about justice or God's justice. I also think that I was saying earlier that I feel like men do express emotions, but I think there's like a couple complexities that I'll say in a very short nutshell. In one nutshell, I do think that men are socialized to not express their emotions in the same way. We know this, that they're told not to cry because that's seen as a form of weakness. And so I do feel like men have a tendency to shut down. And I don't think that that's healthy all the time. I'm not saying that they have to express their emotions like women do, but I definitely think that shutting down usually results in like other forms of like maladaptive practices like addiction or stepping outside the relationship or getting their emotions met in other ways that are not healthy for the connections that they're in. And studies show us that men who don't have healthy, like other healthy relationships in general, have a tendency to fall into depression. But it's men who have healthy relationships where they can express themselves, especially male or male relationships. They are usually cured of that depression. So we know that men do need to express their emotions healthily, but simultaneously they're not encouraged to do so. Can y'all still hear me? I'm
Yeah,
about
can
to
I
leave this
can I
place.
address your
Yeah.
point? Can I engage with you just a bit,
I
like
was just
just for
gonna.
1 second?
I
Okay.
okay.
I just want to address a couple of stuff you said. You said it would inevitably lead to race. Most slavery did not inevitably. Most slavery are based on class. Like historically, most slavery are built upon class, and that's what I was talking about. The myopic view. We only look at ourselves. We don't look at outside. If we're talking about broad concepts, which slavery is a broad concept. It's not the transatlantic slave trade. It's not just built off race. Even the transatlantic slave trade itself was not built off race. It's already documented. And also, when you're saying men about emotions and men, yes, men have emotions and stuff. It's not just a socialization aspect. It's a biological and evolutionary adaptation basis. Hormonal changes, estrogen is a hormone disruptor. Testosterone is a hormone stabilizer. So it's not much of socialization. It's just biologically, ontologically different. And you said something about the addiction. Where women reach an addiction, and some women are actually more prone to addiction than men. In every study, women are more due to addiction, and they are actually more antidepressants than men. Men don't need the level of social connection that women do because we're not biologically adapted to that. We have different biological functions. That's all.
Okay. So yeah, I was just stating my point. But back to slavery. So, for example, you brought up the Bible. I mean, Christians were persecuted for being Christian, and also for Jews were persecuted for being Jewish. Black people, it was finances, but it was also race and racial systems. So there are multiple times where people are oppressed because of their race or going through slavery for long periods of time because of race. So there's multiple things, but race included is necessary because it's relevant. So, and then the second thing you said, I just feel like you weren't even hearing me. I said both men and women show their emotions, but they show them differently. So I don't even know why you brought up the biological concept. So I said
No,
two
I'm
things,
saying that
right?
you said it was, sorry, I'm just
I
giving
said,
clarification. I was
I
writing
mean,
down, you said it was
maybe
a matter of
maybe you.
socialization. It's not just socialization. It's biologically ingrained because you're not the, I was just addressing it overall because this is a
Yeah,
third
she
time
didn't
people
say it
bring
was
up
just
socialization.
she didn't just say it was just, she didn't say it was just socialization,
Yeah,
but she was
that's what I'm
putting in
just
that
saying.
she was putting in that because you can't control biology and all of that, but socialization, we do know that plays a big factor in it, and that's what she was talking about. And
Not
I don't
really,
even think she
because
was
even
talking
when you
about women. I
socialize,
don't even think she was talking about men or women, the rates of addiction. I think she was just talking about that socialization could even lead to addiction in men. She wasn't even
no,
trying to make the
but
point
I'm
that
just
men
saying
are
she
more
said but
or less addicted.
no, she did say use the word more because I actually try to be fair to everybody. I write down what they say. She used the word more
No,
addicted and more depression.
issues was,
That's what I'm saying. So
well, okay,
I don't know if
sorry if
that's
you
a
misinterpreted.
misspeak or whatever, but I'm saying you did use
If
the
you
more
look
You
for a
word.
see, like I
disagreement,
just
I
feel
do
like
know you
you're
say have a professional debater. If you're looking for a disagreement, you will find one. But sometimes it may be rooted in like the lack of understanding. So probably come from a point of just trying to
I
hear what people are saying and have a conversation instead of a debate.
I'm actually
Yeah,
All
so
so
right,
listening to
I
what
don't
she's
be I don't
saying
basically,
be
clearly. That's
like
why I
what
make
I
sure
hold
I
was
on,
actually
hold
saying.
write
on.
down what she's saying.
I just want to land my
Yeah,
I just want to land my plane.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to land. I would be seen as emotional right now for addressing IQC the way that I would address it, by the way that he's interrupted me multiple times. And I don't want you to see me as emotional. I'll just say that what Issues has explained is what my intention was. So when I was talking about the depression thing, I was specifically talking about a study for men. At the point right before that, I was saying that it's nuance, right? Some of it is socialization, and then the other part of it is men, even though they're biologically different, they still have emotions that they need to express, but it will look different than women. So that's the biological component. The other component is that there's socialization. We're all socialized. So I'm not sure why that's confusing. Anyway, and I wasn't even really addressing you. I was trying to get to a solution. I think the solution is ultimately is that yeah, men and women are different, but we all have emotions. And I think we're supposed to balance each other out. But sometimes I feel like women aren't safe spaces for men to express their emotions. And sometimes I feel like women want their men to be like women, right? Especially if you grew up in a household where all women, it's hard not to expect your man to be able to be a certain level of like what we would consider emotional intelligent. And I also think sometimes men want women to be like men, right? Like when we're emotional, they don't know what to deal with us. And I feel like ultimately I ain't gonna say that part because it sounds wild, but sometimes I be feeling like men don't like women. Like, like it sounds
Right.
like, but sometimes I feel like y'all want to be with other dudes. Like, to a certain extent, if you're, well, the thing is, to a certain extent, if you're dating women, you should know that she's gonna be a little bit more emotional, and that should be actually a value to you. Like the times where you can't express yourself, or the times where you're harder, or whatever the case may be. She's in that soft component that softens you up a little bit. There should be a balance, but I feel like we're rejecting each other in ways that's like unnatural.
I think you made a point of it should be that way. It really should be, but most of the time, just like for instance in my situation, when I talk to my female on that type of level, it's like we can't even talk no more. She just shut up. She don't even want to talk no more. I'm like, what the fuck am I? I'm letting you know what's going on in my mind, how I feel, and just like bro just said, he just told you from our perspective, and y'all got this whole tendency of just want to be in y'all own mind. It's just like when a woman is starting the conversation and talking, most of the time, women, y'all love to talk, and men, we just like, fuck it, we gonna listen. Even if we don't want to hear the conversation, we like, fuck it, we gonna listen. But then when we get on the issue and we start talking, It's like y'all can't reciprocate. And for me, I had this situation happen last night. I got down to the nitty gritty, let it be known. I didn't go too deep, but I let it be known, and I said, now let's conversate about it. How do you feel about this? Nothing. I get one-liners. I'm like, man, what type of shit is this? Y'all want us
The
to
tea
act a certain
thoughts.
way, and then y'all just get one. Then we get one-liners. That's why we be like, why am I even gonna get on that level with you when you don't respect it and you don't want to get back at me? It's different things from
Neutralize,
our
because
point of
one thing
view.
about me, I'm gonna tell you, you want, don't ask me what I think. Matter of fact, I'll tell you even if you don't want even if you don't want to know.
I know
I'll sit up here, I'll
y'all
talk your
always
ear.
tell us when we don't want to hear something, but when we want to hear something on a different level, like we want y'all to be in y'all feminine with us. Kill us with your femininity. But y'all don't even be recognizing when y'all be throwing a little masculine energy off, and my bad. That's another trigger
You
word.
what?
I already know that's a
You
trigger.
can't ask for
Maybe
femininity,
she's
sir, when
tried it.
you don't like emotions. And
Host.
to the
Huh?
point of
Maybe
What
the
you
she's
mean?
the
tried,
No,
and,
no,
other.
and,
no.
and maybe she's tried, and when she's
She
tried,
has.
now she just
I'm
felt.
telling you.
Well,
I'm telling you
I would say
firsthand. She
sometimes
has.
when a woman is done speaking, is because ain't nobody been listening, and she done picked up, and now she don't
Mhm.
want to talk about it no more.
Host. Can I
No,
just speak
no,
to
Mhm.
host for a second?
it's because we got different perspectives and we can't well, I'm gonna say from my point of view in my situations, the females that I deal with, it seems like you got a one-track mind and you're not listening. Just like bro said in his stuff, he's writing down
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
I started
exactly.
to do
I'm
that
actually
too
writing down what you
because
say, and you're not listening to what I'm. No, that's what I'm saying. Just give me a quick second. It was demonstrated here because I actually listened very attentively. I will write down what you said, and when we hold to account with what you say, you guys get defensive about it, and that's fine. But you
I
backtrack, and
wasn't
then you don't
defensive at
get some.
all. You interrupted me multiple
Sorry,
times and you
I'm just
disturbed
talking
me.
about. I'm just talking overall, and that's a
The
matter of barrier and
problem
community.
is that
Can I
men have
finish?
a way of
Can
thinking
I finish?
that only
In
they
order,
understand. And
in
when
order to
women
address
point
my
out
point,
the
you'll have to address. Let me
inconsistency
finish.
of what they're saying, then they do this and they cry and they complain. But just in the same way, in one breath, you said, y'all ask what men think, and when y'all say it, and when we
I didn't
say it,
say
y'all
that.
don't listen. That was projection. I'm not talking to you. This is a panel, and you need to
But
learn the
I
skill
was
set
speaking
of
just a
being
while
able
ago.
to have a dialogue on a panel. Because just in the way that you weren't done, the person before you wasn't done, but you interrupted, and now
No,
you want the floor to speak.
I
That's
asked
not
for
how a
one
panel
second. Let me
works. But
talk.
back to my point, the
Okay.
issue is that men do not listen, and just like issues picked up, you are listening to respond, or you are listening to find a hole, or a hole in her
listening to
argument or
conversate.
what
We
she's
listening to
saying. It's not about
conversate.
conversation, because how is it that all of us as women understood what she said, but you had to stop her and ask clarifying questions that we all got? Because when y'all are
Y'all are
quote
women. We're
unquote
different.
in the midst of the conversation, y'all not listening with y'all ears because y'all think that women are emotional. Just like when I was talking and Thoughts was in the comments talking about emotional. No, you are not emotionally inept, and you don't practice being able to decipher where the source of your emotion is coming from to know how to direct it, because women have always had to have that practice for many very different reasons. There's a time when men speak, especially in these rooms, in these environments, that we can pick up that y'all talking a bunch of bullshit. And although you not might be screaming or talking in condescending language, the language and the verbiage that you're using is very consistent with red pill or other type of just very low vibrational, very, very below sea level type of men and the way that
You
they
are
think,
making a lot of
especially in
assertions. No, you
regards
don't.
to women and the way that women have been able to biologically and ancestrally be able to be in tune with their emotions to the degree, like I said, it has been a catalyst for change in the community. So when y'all speaking about emotions, y'all are only speaking from what Child said, the socialized aspect of how you've been conditioned. You're and sound smart, that you actually sound extremely asinine, and it's actually exhausting to sit here and listen to the, well, I have a question, well, can you clarify this because this looks like this. No, we're talking about emotions and race and slavery because that is fucking relevant to Black Americans, and your inability to understand that means that you don't have the range to talk about this
Okay.
in the conversation, and perhaps you should just be observing. Just like you said, you can't handle being on a panel because you can't think and hold in your head all the different viewpoints that people are bringing up without getting lost. That means you don't have the skill set. That doesn't mean we have to slow down because you can't catch up. And that's the same thing that it goes within the community. Just because you can't understand the ways that we are telling you that we experience you as men, as women, and you think that we are just jumping on you, it's to the point that your girlfriend just be like, okay, when you decide finally that you want to talk and you have a discussion. It's exhausting constantly being in a relationship, romantic or not, with men who are emotionally like children.
Okay, can I address your point now? What you did, you when you ask questions, any logical person or any rational person or even emotional person asks clarification. So make sure that they don't strawman your argument and properly interpret your argument. That is what rational people do. There is no problem with asking clarification for questions and stuff. And what you guys did when she stated her argument, you did a post hoc justification of her arguments. So you made a pre-assumptive claim and you backtracked it to fit the narrative. That is not how assumptions work. And when you're speaking upon emotions, you're speaking on a subjective basis. So you're naturally going to ask for clarification because each person's subjective experience is different. So when you're speaking about emotional ranges and stuff, that is something you're supposed to understand. If somebody asks you for clarification within a subjective field, within a subjective range, there's nothing wrong with that. But I was gonna say, thank you, host, for having me up. But that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
You're
I would
welcome.
like to
You're
say
welcome.
IQC, what you was talking about had nothing to do with what she said. That's the reason why we didn't backtrack and try to substantiate nothing. What you said literally had nothing to do with what she was talking about. And I thought perhaps it was just the fact that you didn't understand her. So I tried to say it in a different way. And like she said out her own mouth, that's exactly what she was saying. So, I mean, nobody's trying
It's
to
just I
win the
actually
debate.
addressed it. It's just I actually wrote down everything she said and addressed everything she
You
said
didn't
because I
understand
don't
it.
just
You can write
listen.
it down, but without
No,
comprehension,
no,
baby,
it's
it don't
not
mean
about
nothing.
understanding. I asked for
Yeah, you didn't
clarification.
understand.
There's
You
a
didn't understand, and I
no
understood, and
clarification
I
is.
explained it, So it wasn't us
Do you
trying
know
to
what
backtrack and
clarifications mean?
substantiate anything. No, I don't know
A
what
clarification
clarification means. Please tell me.
clarification means that you understand the basis of the point, but you ask them to expound upon it so that you
But no,
cannot strawman
but
their argument. That
you
doesn't mean
came
that you
and
don't
made points.
understand
Are
it.
you talking about when you said something about Child's thing, and you made 3 points to counter what she said, and it was off basis to what she was saying in the first place? Is that what you're talking about? And you said we
No,
backtracked. So when
no.
did we
You said that
backtrack?
no. I'm saying that when child provided her argument and I asked for clarification points because she used words such as more and such as inheritable based, I was asked for clarification on what she means, and then
No, you
you
said we
provided a post.
backtracked.
You asked me. I was complaining. Then you provided a post hoc justification of what she meant and backtracked. That I mean that you backtracked on your issues and stuff and provided a reasonable solution from what she said from the initial conclusion. That's all I'm saying. But that's fine.
Okay,
Well,
well,
thanks for having me,
maybe it's a
host.
difference in ethics. I mean, and the way we speak. But yeah, when we say backtracking here, usually that means you try to go back and clean up what you said. But
No,
okay,
that's
if
what I'm
that's
saying.
what
It's
you
a post
mean.
hoc
But
no, it's a post hoc justification. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I'm just saying when you say
okay,
backtrack, it's like a post hoc. It's like you get the solution. You reach down to Tennessee, and then you ask how to reach down to Tennessee. You backtrack from Tennessee, and you provide the road from
Hey
Tennessee when you're
y'all.
actually trying to go there.
Hey
Sorry.
y'all.
yeah.
I'm
Oh
kind of
yeah, I
lost on
forgot
what we're
Tippy.
talking about.
I'm sorry, Tippy. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we talking
it
about
was
men.
there was yeah, that was just a kind of like a discussion about men and emotions. I'm not sure how we got there, but like, well, actually, IQC, the guy who just dropped, um, he had early on he had referenced the way in which our emotions were high as we were talking about slavery because we felt like um when he was speaking and he was like kind of like glossing kind of like diminishing the effects of of slavery, and it just caused many of us to respond, have some emotion in our response. And so, and that we went down a rabbit hole from there. But you can you can respond either on the prompt or because his thought out briefly, his position is that there were worse forms of slavery elsewhere outside of America, and in that effect, he agrees with the lady's stance on the prompt that slavery was a form of mercy from God. So,
Hold on, he said that. Hold on, he said that exactly
yeah, it was before I think
before I got on. Something.
Yeah. So he
Rounding
definitely
about.
agrees. I'm sorry. Say it again. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, yeah, rounding about, yeah. You pretty much said exactly what he said, but just
Hey,
shorter.
hold on now, ladies. Hold on now, ladies. For men, we do not do a roundabout, and we didn't say it directly. You can't trust that. That's what we meant. I know we messed up. We messed
No
up
thoughts.
big
We
because we can't
thoughts.
communicate.
We
Yes.
did not misunderstand him. He
Yeah, he
gave
said it
multiple points on the stance. Not only did he talk about that there were other more brutal forms and that nothing was unique to the transatlantic S trade. That's the reason why I brought up the unique parts of it. He also said that the other parts of what could have happened was we could have been unalived in other forms of it. So no, he definitely was standing on that. And
But
yeah,
that's
we ain't
different
lying
from
on that.
that. Hold on now, ladies. That is different from what that says now. You said that what do the prompt say? I can't really see it. Say it one more time so I can make sure.
If you can't even see the prompt, how are you saying
I
that?
can see it. I can see it, but I gotta hey, I can't tell you what I'm doing.
You're just trying to stick up. You just
No,
Trying to stick up for his
of course.
sound like.
right.
Of course I'm gonna
Because he
stick
came
up
up here
for
talking
men with
about
a room full of
emotions,
women,
because
but
you came
I
in
still
talking about emotions, and you jumped on
no,
the
it's
train,
not
and now
that.
you see
It's
why
not
we was
that.
in the
Listen,
state we was
no,
in.
no. I get you, but I'm saying this because my stance is on everything. If a man don't say specifically, because those two, the things that you said he said and what you said the prompt says, to men in general, those are two totally different things.
Okay.
If he didn't say exactly that, that
I
is
think he
totally
still
different.
Grace. He said it was grace. He said it was mercy.
He said it was grace. Oh, well, if he said
With
that, okay.
mercy, yeah, that's what
I
that's
thought
what it says. It says it's S word. What is it? God's mercy. If she was right, referring to this video, and it
this.
also says, "Would you rather our ancestors had stayed in Africa so that we wouldn't be in America today? Why or why not?"
Let me be
So
be straightforward. So he said, yes, it was grace, not
it
no
was mercy.
roundabout. I'm talking about.
If you're hearing
So he said, yes,
he
it was
chat,
mercy.
he dropping the chat.
Yes,
if
and he
what I
gave
said was
points.
correct.
You heard this
Okay,
man.
well,
He came
I
on
trust
professional
y'all.
debate mode with multiple points to back up his claim. He wasn't playing with nobody. He called us all emotional. Yes.
I get you
Okay, so
on
he's
that, but I'm
coming
just
back.
saying, if he
He's coming
said
back.
that specifically, I believe y'all. But if he didn't say that specifically, you
Well,
can't
about
just
to
I'm sorry.
say it's
Sorry,
roundabout. Go
I was
ahead.
passing through what you're saying. Hello? Sorry.
Yeah, so he
What was
wanted.
your response to the prompt?
Okay. First of all, I never called anybody emotional. Never used that word. Second of all, my premise was when I came here first, the host was trying to find a logical argument for why slavery existed, and I gave her a logical argument for why slavery existed because slavery was a condition usually of war. So when faced with war, two provinces would actually fight it out, and when one province captures another province, they have three options. They can either slaughter all the men from the province, or they can release them, and that reinforces your enemy, giving you a more likely chance of you losing the war, or they can put them to work on their side so that they can end bloodshed as quick as possible while maintaining the safety of their own people. So that's where the rational argument and the pragmatic argument for a slavery come through. I never said it was a mercy or anything, but if you're going to compare it to a mercy in comparison to the alternative, you could frame it that way. That was my premise.
Okay. So I misunderstood. So
So you saying to the alternative
I
of
still don't know what he
unaliving,
said.
it was. He's saying basically the alternative, like in a quote unquote war, there's only three things that happen when the males, they either get knocked off, let free, or enslaved. They're not gonna let them free because they can come back and knock them off. They might not unalive them because they can use them. So that's why they will put them in the SLAVE. So the only real two options is to knock them off or in SLAV them. So
or just not
that would
buy
be
them in
the
the first
only
place.
way.
But hey,
That's
Yeah,
not
or
but
that,
not
we,
that's
come and
not
but
get
that's
them
not
in
a
the first
material
place. But
condition that we
hey,
understood,
were.
understood.
That's
That's
not what
understood.
war
But we
is not.
talking
That's
about
a
what
state of the
happened.
human condition. But
Yeah.
that's
also I
what
would
my
like to
promise.
say
But
this. I didn't
I'm
think you
gone
would keep
again.
saying it, but that W word is not, y'all. I don't think that we can say that on TikTok.
Okay, all right.
Unfortunately,
I'm sorry.
I
I'm
don't know
dropping down
why.
again. Sorry, that's fine. But
Okay,
thank
thank
you.
you,
Yeah.
IQC. Thank you for
Okay,
clarifying, and my apologies for misinterpreting.
that's
I'm
fine. I
gonna
know
go
that
ahead
it
and
wasn't
answer the
malicious.
phone.
That's fine. Cool.
Okay, thanks again. I appreciate you. Yeah, this is, I tell you, this is one heck of a topic. It really is, especially as it relates to Christianity, and because that was the whole catalyst that started, and thank you for reminding me of that word, Whitley, catalyst. That was the atheist asking about, why does your God condone slavery? That was the catalyst to making me start this live, because I want answers. I want to be able to effectively speak to that when they say that. So, yeah, it's open. Well, Tippy, you didn't get an official turn. Did you wanna? If you don't have,
I'm
oh,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
gonna prefer the Bible. I haven't really do too much reading with slavery. From my understanding, it was just the condition that life was in at that time. So he had rules for slavery. But anyway, I think slavery was a blessing in disguise. It took a lot of hell to see the light at the end of it because look at us now. I mean,
Yeah,
things took time, and a lot of people and probably our ancestors still want to understand why. Um, but it was a blessing in disguise, and unfortunately, it took a lot of torturing just to get to where we at right now. And I think Africa should appreciate the Africans Americans today
yes.
because not only did we go through slavery, but we had to go through the Civil War. Just having rights and be able to do certain things in this country, for them to actually come over here and get opportunities to be able to do the same thing. So I feel like it was a blessing in disguise. If they didn't bring us over here, we probably wouldn't even be discovered over here.
I agree. I mentioned that early on, like when I first began the live. I definitely agree with that. And then something that Issue said earlier on too. She was using the example of Joseph, how Joseph was brothers sold him into slavery, and but she wasn't using it to justify like that. She don't have the same position that you and I have. But when she mentioned it, I was like, well, that example actually does help solidify with you and me, Tippy.
You're cutting in and out.
Breaking up for me.
Yeah, he's breaking up and he's angry, so we're just gonna drop him, and we can go back to you. Do you still disagree with the prompt? NNSSL.
What do you say?
Do you still disagree with the prompt?
Yeah, completely. I just think it's not very practical to say that men should not come around women or children,
Why not?
because obviously you don't live in a world where you can't separate the two. For instance, men and women work together, right?
Well, the women who practiced the 4B movement, they were able to conduct that movement while still being in proximity to men.
Yeah, but don't you think so? You're promoting the idea of segregation between men and women in workplace. Is that what you're saying?
Men, women, and children.
Okay. So, but there isn't enough really money or resources to provide that. So it's not very productive, though, is it?
What resources are you talking about in particular?
So in terms of, let's say, for instance, a hospital, right? There's a lady doctor. If she's going to look after a man, you're saying she shouldn't. Is that what you're saying?
No, we can still be within like proximity with each other without necessarily having to engage with each
So
other.
within your emotions, there's going to be barriers, right? There's going to be conditions set.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I don't understand how you guys
She's
don't
sick.
understand the
It's
practical.
because of the fact that men perpetuate over 90% of violent crimes. That would suggest that there needs to be some space between men, women, and children. It's not hard to understand. You can bring
Yeah,
up
and
all of these hypotheticals if you want to. That doesn't change our stance.
right, I'm not trying to change your stand, but also exactly that's what again my belief that actually that promotes it because I'm a Muslim. So you're just promoting an Islamic ideology, right? Is that what?
It's not your turn.
Sorry, go ahead. Can I just say, so you're promoting an Islamic ideology
No,
because
I
in
wouldn't be
Islam,
promoting religion whatsoever because again, that in itself is the reason as to why we have the system in which inherently tells men that they are the leader, which is why men feels as though they can take control of women. So I wouldn't promote that.
yeah, but the broad
That's
line and
because men are
basis
leaders.
of what you're saying is
Yes, man, it's
actually
not your
the
turn.
core center of Islamic message. It says that women and men should not be together; they should be segregated.
No. What you are referring to is something that is based in patriarchy and has a lot to do with dominating
Just one
women.
second.
It has
It's
a lot to
misogyny.
do with feeling, yes, exactly, misogyny. What we are stating has nothing to do with misogyny. I'm gonna drop you since you can't control yourself and just stay on mute. What we are talking about has nothing to do with misogyny, dominating anyone, or perpetuating any of the harmful things that Islam does when it comes to women.
Well, that's obviously your opinion, but as I said, so you are harmful. Men that are harmful should not come.
Tell her opinion is wrong.
Okay, I don't know why we have to repeat it constantly to you. The Iceman, can we have your age, please?
I'm
Have a good.
25.
Do you agree or disagree? Okay, I don't know
Completely
repeating
disagree.
stuff. Say it again.
Completely disagree.
Okay, you can tell us why.
Because fathers matter.
That's an opinion, and I
Kid right now.
don't care. That's anecdotal.
Are you a parent?
That's also anecdotal.
Are you a parent?
That doesn't matter.
So you can't answer the question?
I'm not
Stop
going to answer
asking.
the total.
If you can't,
So you can't answer
then
the
we'll
question?
stop you. No, we can't. It's anecdotal. No.
Yeah, thank God you're not a parent.
Okay. Have a great day. You seem emotional. Let's move on to the next person. Very emotional. Ice QC, can I have your age?
I'm 28.
Okay, do you agree or disagree with the prompt?
I'll even grant you all the concessions to your prompt. How are you going to enforce?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
I'm not asking how
about
will
like
you enforce it if I
enforcement,
got the
right?
concession? Yeah.
We can just either separate it based off of like different continents, or if we must like engage with men within society, then we can do it based off of like a 4B movement and just like not interact with each other.
Okay, that didn't provide answer to my question. How are you going to enforce it?
Yeah, that's how we would enforce it.
No, enforcement means how are you going to stop men from enforcing? Let's say I even give you the continents, I give you all the conditionals of your premise. How are you going to enforce it?
So yeah, we don't need to enforce it. Like if you're trying to insinuate that we would have to enforce it through force, that would be false. Again, women would just have to come together to make this agreement to
Okay,
not
that's
interact with
fine.
them.
And you make that agreement on your side, and the men say no. How are you going to enforce it?
Sir, if the men, they
Here's
don't
the
have to
thing.
agree. They don't have to agree, sir.
That's
That's the point.
fine. That's
They
that's
don't
what I
have
Okay,
gave
to
you. I gave you
what we're
the.
not gonna do, because you do this every time you come up. You try to make things bigger than what it is, and we can never come to a fucking agreement because you keep going and going. It's literally just her stating that men should not be allowed around women or children. You can agree to disagree, but how she would make that happen does not matter.
Listen,
I'm
currently
not arguing
condition
how
of
it
our
would be the
premise.
case.
So I'm
Sir,
just asking
IQC,
you,
IQC.
how would you?
What do you think that should means? Or should, I'm sorry, not should,
I mean,
should
that is a
not.
prescriptive basis of
Yeah,
what
it
you
says
should
should
do.
not, correct?
So
So
that
should
this is
not.
a
I already
should.
gave you the premise on how it could be enforced. Okay, but I'm talking about how men should not be allowed to be around women and children. Understand?
So it
Sorry, can I
also
respond now? I'm just asking.
it's also really nuts to me too that men try to assert themselves as the protectors, the providers, and the leaders. Yet when the people that you're supposedly supposed to be leading and protecting are saying, I want you to stay away from me, y'all suddenly lose your quote unquote protective abilities and your leadership qualities by doing what your team asks of you. Like if women are saying, hey, we need y'all to actually stay away from us and also the kids, y'all are like, well, no, I don't want to. I'm confused where you're saying that you don't want to, but that's what is being asked of you, and y'all supposed to be the leaders and the protectors, right? So protect your team. If your
I'm
team is
sorry, is that a
saying get
question?
away from me,
I would
if your team is saying get away from me, then get away from them and stop trying to fight to be able to be in proximity to them. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, is that a question? So I can grant you all those premises. It still doesn't contend with my
It's
point.
it's
Just
not
because your
really
team
a
Again,
requests,
there's no
question.
argument.
just
It's
What?
because
more
you're just
so
Okay,
okay,
it's
what
I'm
do
not
you
just
got
it's
for
not a
IQC?
question. It's more so me just making the statement because you're asking how it's going to be enforced. It shouldn't need to be enforced
no. He's
if
saying how's it gonna
people,
happen?
if women
Joshua, one
are
second.
hush. I'm answering your question because if y'all are supposed to be the protectors, the providers, and the leaders, if women are saying, hey, we would like y'all to stay away from us and also stay away from our kids, nobody should have to enforce anything for you. You should be able to be the quote unquote protector, provider, leader, and also adult enough to be able to say, I respect that that's what you want. Let me go ahead and remove myself from you. That should never have to be enforced. You need to self police yourself by saying, you know what, they said leave me alone, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave them alone. When you see a woman and a child, you move around. You can still be in community with them because obviously you don't have to sell your house and go, live on an island. But that means having conversations with women that you don't have to have a conversation with. Like obviously, if you at Target, you move around, go with you
Who
at
hurt you?
Walmart or you shopping or whatever,
Who hurt you?
and you're hurting me right now. So if you could like stop, that'd be great. Anywho, like if you out shopping and you about to go cash out and there's a woman, as your cashier, you got two options. You can either interact with her for however you need to for that limited amount of time, or you can respectfully look for a male cashier and then go into his lane instead. So,
No,
oh, am I?
no, you're not.
Oh, oh, yeah. I mean, and again, the second option would be to go find a male cashier and go hop into his line, and so that you can respect the fact that women are saying, "Leave us alone." Like, I don't understand. I never said, hey, Minnie, I don't fucking like you and I want you to stay the fuck away from me. I just like, okay. Like that, I don't understand what the problem is. They never, unless I had to because we was at like work or something. But even because you, unless I absolutely need to, like if we in a meeting and I have to talk to you as per the meeting, I'll meet and I'll talk to you when I need to. But if we outside of work and you say you don't like me and you want to stay away from me, I'm not about to say hi to you when I see you on the street. I'm gonna respect the fact that you. So I'm cooking us, and y'all be like, no. If we outside of work and you say you don't like me, like that doesn't make sense. I've never understood you wanting to be around people who don't want to be around you. That just